Okay, so Pam, let's talk just a minute about what your current situation is. Tell me a little bit about your situation. You said that you are living with a boyfriend, right?
Correct.
You currently split all of your expenses.
Correct. So everything's split in half. The
Okay.
mortgage is split in half. I pay the utilities up front, and then I deduct his half of the utilities from my half of the mortgage.
Okay. And how is that working for you?
Great. We love it. We're older in age. I'm not older, but we're 55 in age. He's about 4 or 5 years older than me.
Okay.
Electrician, and he has children, and I have children, and it's just easier for us to keep everything split.
Okay.
So we're not relying on each other's income.
Okay. So you all bought a house together?
Correct.
Okay. And you pay half of that. You have solar now that
Yeah.
you're working towards, and you just got the solar put in.
Yes, we just got it installed a week after Thanksgiving.
Okay. So when it comes to paying off debt, the solar and the home, that's two things that he is on, and he wants to keep that out of your numbers here that we're using today,
Correct.
right?
Oh,
Okay.
right. The loan is in his name only.
Okay.
I pay half of that installment every month, which is $93 a month.
Okay. So I have your income at $5,726 a month.
Yes.
Are you paid weekly, bi-weekly, monthly?
I'm paid biweekly.
Okay. So the debt that you're showing is a car. It has a balance of $9,000.
Yes,
Your payment is currently $309
that is
a month.
correct.
Okay. You have two Discover cards.
That is correct.
Okay, so 12,890 is the balance on one, and
Correct.
$400 is the balance on the other.
That is correct.
You have a Capital One at 3450, approximately $3,450,
Yep.
and then a Visa Prime at 3152, and a Navy Federal at $8,901.
Correct.
Okay. Now that is the entirety of your debt. It looks like, as far
Yeah,
as what's in your name.
that is correct.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, because your numbers look good. So tell me what are you feeling the pressure? Because I noticed that when you sent me the email, you were talking about you are wondering what's happening with your money every month. Tell me what
Yeah.
you're talking about when you say that.
So I am a single mother of two children that are grown in their 30s. One's in their late 20s and the other in her early 30s. I have one child that's financially does very well, and I have one child that financially does not. And so what I find myself is, and they're good children. The one that doesn't, works two jobs, but she, in this day and age, she can't afford anything. Her rent just keeps on increasing every year. It went from 1650 3 years ago, and now it's 2250. So it just keeps on increasing. And I try to help her as much as I can. So that's what happens with my debt. I took on her car payment to alleviate that. That car payment is not my car payment. It is actually her car payment, but it's in both of our names. Her as primary, me as secondary. And I just took that debt over to alleviate her from that $300 a month so she can afford to buy food.
Okay.
So this is what's happening. Her car broke down. It was $9,000 to fix it. It's easier for me to fix the car than it is to go buy a new car and turn over that debt into another car. So I decided to fix the car. Well, that was $9,000. So that's how that Discover card got to $12,000.
Okay.
Then the other car broke, and then that was 4 tires, and then there was another $1,500. So that's where my debt's coming from. And I know it's terrible to say, but I try to help my children as much as I can, and I don't want her starving, and I want her to have a vehicle.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. Does
so
she
that,
live in the same area as you?
yeah, not the same area. She lives in 2 towns away from me. So she's about an hour away.
Okay.
So that's where the debt came from. So now that I have the debt and I know I make real good money, I'm trying to figure out how to pay this down with multiple credit cards.
Okay. So what does your credit score look like?
Well, it doesn't look good now because I have all these multiple credit cards. So it's at almost at 700. I think it's 693.
Okay.
Last time I checked last week, it was 693.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good credit score, especially for the tools that you would need. But you're wanting just to use the credit cards.
Well, I don't have the, I mean, I don't know if I have the ability to go out and get like not personal loan, but a line of credit. 'Cause I have two credit unions and a Wells Fargo account. And the reason why I have two credit unions is because I watched your videos, and I decided to get with a credit union opposed to having a Wells Fargo National Bank. So I'm moving away from Wells Fargo. That's why I did that. And I split my money in three sections when I get paid. 50% goes to my bills, 30% goes to my wants, and 20% goes to my debt. So that's how I split my paycheck up every time I paid in those three accounts.
If you have been watching the videos, then
Yeah.
you're very aware that I only use lines of credit,
Yes.
which would be the personal line of credit that I would actually get to pay off your car.
Okay.
That being said, according to your worksheet, you're not really covered up in debt. It sounds like that it's mainly you helping to supply some of the
Yes.
needs for your children is just pulling you down every month.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? Are you looking for a way to stop that, to help her, get on her feet? Or do you feel like that you're doing handouts instead of hand ups? What do you feel?
No, she is in a position now where she is okay. Her husband finally got a very decent job as electrician, and she door dashes on the weekends. And now that her car, she has two cars, so she has a BMW, a very old one, like 20 years old. She finally paid that off, so that freed up a lot of money. She is going to take the other car back, that payment back, so that will be alleviated from me soon. I don't know when soon. I think she has two more payments left on the other car, and then she'll take that, the Ford, the one that I'm paying, she'll take that back and pay that. So I'm in a position where I don't have to worry about her as much as I had to before Christmas. This all happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm trying to, okay, so now that I have this debt, how do I get rid of all of this, like pay it down with multiple cards? Because I don't have a problem getting a line of credit. I probably can go get one from my Navy Federal or get one from Achievia. I just don't know where to go first. Because
Okay.
all of this as the big picture, and it scares me because I'm 55 years old and I don't have retirement either. And that's another part of why I want to pay this debt down and start shoving money somewhere else.
Okay. If I were in your situation,
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely be looking for a personal line of credit.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm saying that is you have several smaller things like the $9,000 car loan, like you've got the Visa Prime, the Capital One, the small Discover card. All of those can go into one line, which is going to free up about $600 or $700 almost in cash flow per month. Let's look at your numbers here. You have the $31.53, we'll say, in one card, and the $34.50 in another, then the $400. So you have $7,003 that are in three separate credit cards currently, drawing from 21% to 27% interest every month. Okay, so with that 7,000, you have a 150 payment, 138 and 60, which is $348 a month going towards those three cards.
Oh wow. Okay.
So let me look here. So your total expenses are $1,772, let's say. Then you have the total debt totaling $1,640. So $3,412, which tells me that you have $2,300 in cash flow. I mean, you're talking about you should have that paid off in 3 months.
Okay, so that's good. So where do we go get these personal line of credits? Because do I start with my credit union first?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Go to the credit union, and even if they just have a credit card, at your credit score, you should be able to get a max on a credit card, which would be, let's say, $10,000 to $15,000. That's all you need to get your debt under control.
Okay.
If you find out that they do have the credit card, just ask for a link between the credit card and your checking account. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I have a Navy Federal credit card that is linked to my checking account. I mean, it does both. And that's, I think, $24,000 credit card.
Okay, but if I'm not mistaken, Navy Federal only allows you to take a 25% pull off of that balance.
Yeah, yep. I think I can only use 7,000 of that into my credit card. Yes, you're right.
So that's the problem, is if you were able to take the 7,000 and say pay off what we just talked about, that 7,000.
Right.
And you were able to put all of your income back into that credit card, then you can see you're going to wipe out with your first full income coming in of 5,700 approximately.
Yep.
You would have a very small balance left. The problem would be pulling that money back into the checking account to use it again. That's where they're going to get you, because I think that they charge a cash advance to pull it out after you've used the 25-35%. Is that right?
Yeah, I think they do. I've never tried it because I was very afraid to do that.
Yeah.
But I remember when I transferred one of my cards to them, because the interest rate was lower than the other card. That's why it's 9,000.
Okay.
Well, it's not 9,000 now because I made a payment 2 days ago. So I think it's like 80. I think it's like 8,200 now or something like that.
Okay.
She told me you don't want to do a cash advance because we will hit you hard. That's what the rep said. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that then.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
So
that's
what I was thinking.
So I know Navy does do a line of credit. I think Achievia does the same. That's my other credit union.
Right.
If I can't pull one from them, do you suggest any others that are good out there?
Your credit union is your best.
My credit unions, okay.
Yeah. So you're talking about a credit card, right?
Whatever there is available to me. I don't know what either one has. I haven't researched it yet. I do think Achievia does do lines of credit. I remember seeing that, but I could be confused. It might have been Navy Federal. I'm not too sure.
Let's look at your debt. What would happen though if you got into a line of credit? Let's just talk about how that affects your overall debt and how quickly that you could maybe get out of debt. It's probably going to be a lot quicker than you are thinking, because I don't think you're in bad shape. I think that you've got a good situation here.
Right.
It's just that, of course, the more that you help your children, the longer it's going to take you to get out. So that's kind of a personal situation that I don't like touching into, but I see it a lot. I see a lot of parents that are helping the adult children.
Yep.
Even the unmarried adult children. I'm saying that's a real concern, because just like you don't want your daughter not to be able to eat.
Right.
So you're trying to fill the gap.
Yeah.
I hear that more than you know. So you're not alone with that situation.
I'm hoping I'm not alone, because I feel so guilty sometimes, because I try to give my children hands up in life and not a hand out. And, with her, it's a little different. She's a good kid. Not saying that she's not a good kid. She's very responsible. She got herself, it's not her fault that the world around her is just increasing everywhere. And she only makes $20 an hour. So when you have the world around you just inflating everything,
right.
I make good money, and I'm not saying that I shouldn't share that with her, but I feel like I need to at least give her a hand up in life. So that's what I did.
Right.
So it didn't pay off.
Unfortunately, sometimes it's a real emotional.
It's a tug. It is. It's an emotional tug. Do you not help your children? This is a kid that never really asks for anything, and then when she does, it's like, well, what do you do?
I've been there, but my problem was, I had a spouse that didn't want to do better. And so in my situation, I just got to where I wouldn't allow my mother to help, because I was not going to put that stress there.
Yep.
And I don't know what your daughter's situation is, but I know in my situation, he was literally like, well, your mom will fit the bill. And I'm like, when, it took me a few years to be like, what's happening here? But, it was like, no, she's not going to, I'm not going to allow this to happen. So,
Right.
but when you get there, it's like now you've got to take the load, the
Yeah.
pressure, the stress as the wife. And it's not fair. It's not a fair situation. But I know how that feels. And it's a very yucky, like,
It
struggle,
is.
like you're going to make me angry feelings after a few years,
Yep.
because you're not helping me.
Yep.
Maybe if your daughter learns to do the velocity banking, maybe that
Well,
will give her the hand up that she needs.
yes, and we've talked about that. She's actually wants to figure out how to start saving for retirement now that she, that the household is financially set. They're able to pay. I mean, they don't have anything extra, of course. Right. They're able to pay their bills. So she did discuss that with me. I said, well, I'll share these videos with you. So I gave her the videos and she's super excited. So you might be hearing from her next.
So do you have grandchildren involved?
I do not. I have no grandchildren. Neither one of my children have grandchildren. So I have one son who's in the Navy, that's married, that's financially set. And then of course I have my daughter who is with her high school sweetheart for the last 15 years. So.
Well, that is sweet. Well, good. I hope that they figure it out and move up. It is a tough world. It is.
Yes.
And, it takes, I'm sure you've heard in the videos, the mind shift of moving up. You've got to expand your horizons. You can't keep living that paycheck to paycheck feeling and expect to be going anywhere.
Exactly.
So, just like you, I mean, you're moving up because you're getting ready to step out of debt. And I don't think you realize how close you may be here. That's what we're going to do next. We're going to talk about your personal debt. Let's look at that. I'm going to move over to the whiteboard.
So one more question for you, Christy. If for some reason I am unable to get a line of credit through Achievia or any other credit union, then do I use one of my credit cards just to pay that down and then just move things over as that's paid down?
You can.
Okay.
So we'll look at that too. We'll kind of give you a couple options here. Okay. Let's just imagine that you get a line of credit for $15,000. And the reason I say that is credit unions are really good about having that credit card that you can link to your checking account.
Okay.
And it's usually a limit of 10 to 15,000.
Okay.
So if you got 15,000, let's look at what would happen here. Line of credit is 15,000, and let's just say that it's a high of 14%, which would be pretty high right now. You paid off the three that we were talking about. So your Discover of $400, you've got a $400 Discover, and then you've got a $34.50. Put it up here. Capital One.
Yep.
And then the Visa Prime at $31.53.
Yep.
So this is a Visa. So $7,003 would be your total. Now, you have this $15,000 that you can use to pay these off, right?
Yes.
So with your income being at $5,700 approximately, this is your income, then you have expenses that leave you with a cash flow of, let's say, $2,000. And I know it's more than that, okay?
Okay.
So if this is a personal line of credit or a credit card that is currently at a credit union that you can pull off of as needed and put back into as you get paid. So it doesn't matter if you're paid weekly, biweekly, or monthly.
Okay.
But your income would go back into this line of credit. Your balance would be approximately $1,303. So the total payments that you were making were $348. This is now cash flow. So we would add that to your $2,000, meaning you have $2,348 in cash flow now, meaning that your expenses are $3,352 now. So this is your new expenses, $3,352. We had it here of $3,700. your $33.52 would now be added in here for expenses. Then we're going to also do some interest because we don't want to forget that you're going to have to pay some interest. So your interest would be whatever the average daily balance is on the account is what they would figure the 14% on. So
Okay.
I'm going to figure it off of the high, because if I figure it off the high, then when you're surprised at how fast your balance is coming down, that's because my interest figured high and they're going to average it. 7,003 times 14% divided by 12, that's $82. So you're at 47.37 would be your balance. And this is after your interest has applied. 47.37. And look here, your income cannot go in this month.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this is
Yep.
income month 2. Now you're just paying the $33.52 in expenses that you're going to pay whether you use this account or your checking account.
Right.
So you have wiped out $7,000 in credit cards in less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Okay, so that being said, this is where you could add in the $9,000 car. Now you have gained $302 in a monthly payment. Okay?
Yep.
So you're at $12,352 now on this line of credit. Now this $12,352 is your new balance. That is your car with your expenses.
Right.
So your expenses don't come out, like in one big lump. They come out slowly throughout the month. So like you go to the restaurant today, you go to the grocery store tomorrow, you buy gas the next day, right?
Right.
So, but let's just say that it all came out and you have $12,352 for your balance. You're going to bring your income over again, $66.52. Okay, so now that this $9,000 has been paid off, the $302 is gone. Your $33.52 is even less now. So now you have expenses of $3,050.
Right.
$97.02 for your balance. We're going to add in the interest again off of that $12,352. So $145 interest. So you're at $98.47. Let's put in your income for month 4. You're at $41.47. All right, and now we're going to add in your expenses again, $30.50, and we'll add in some interest. We're going to take your interest off of the high, $98.47, so $115 approximately in interest, so $73.12. Month 5, income goes in again. Now your balance is $16.12. We're going to add in your $30.50 for expenses. Now, right here, you're in month 5. Literally in month 5 over this whole amount. You've already paid off the 3 credit cards. Now you're working on the car loan and you're about to pay that off. So we could add in some more debt right here. So if you wanted to pull in another credit card, this would be the place to do it. So we're going to add in the $89.01 for Navy Federal to pay it off. We're going to gain the $228 in cash flow, which means that your expenses would be $28.22 here, really. But let's just go ahead and add in a high because we are all about trying to see how fast you're going to get out of debt, even if we have not, been conservative, because you're going to win regardless. So here you go. You're going to add some more interest, and let's just go ahead and take it off of this high. Now, we know that it would be an average between these two. So the interest is going to be nowhere near this high. So $159 for interest. So you're at $13,722. Your income goes in for month 6, $8,022. Then you're going to add in $28.22 is your new expenses. And then we'll add in some interest, $94 approximately. 10,938. 5,700 income goes in for month 7. You're at 5238. You know what this means.
Yep.
When your expenses come back out, your interest comes out, your income goes in, you're going to be back to paying nothing but expenses right here.
Yep.
Okay. So then you would throw in your big credit card, which is at 12,000. It'll be down a little bit by the time you get here. So that 12,000 is going to pay off, of course, in less than this did, because you've now gained $320 more in cash flow every month.
So it would be paid off probably in the next 2.5 months.
Less than 11 months, you're going to be done with your debt as far as what your part is that you owe.
Okay.
So you might want to show that to your partner and see if maybe he wants to jump in and get rid of that mortgage as well.
That'd be awesome if he wanted to do that. I keep on talking to him about it. So
let's go over right quick and talk about what you would do if you're not able to get into that PLOC. Okay.
Yes.
So
now I did look at Achievia, their website, and they don't offer line of credits. They offer personal loans.
No, we don't want a personal loan.
Yeah. So
they have credit cards.
They do have credit cards. I haven't applied for one, but they do have credit cards.
Okay. So that may be the situation I was talking about, where that credit card can be turned into a line of credit.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So let's look at your credit card. So it doesn't matter if you use Navy Federal or Discover.
Right.
Which one would you like to start with?
I would probably say the Navy Federal, right? Because the interest is so low on that one. It's 18. Well, it's not low, but it's lower than Discover.
Okay. If you start with the Discover, you can gain the $320 in cash flow a month.
Oh, yes. Okay. Let's start with that. Yes.
I always try to start with that higher monthly payment, and that way you're able to,
that makes a lot of sense.
Additional cash flow.
That's why you're in the business, Christy.
Okay. So your balance is $12,890. So $12,890 for this Discover balance. You have a $320 payment per month. So your expenses, if we go back to the drawing board, you had a total of $2,000 in cash flow, which meant you had $3,700 in expenses every month. We would take off the $320, so your expenses are going to be reduced. So now you're at $3,380. So this would be your new expenses.
Your screen kind of went blurry.
So since your expenses are $3,380, it doesn't matter. It won't apply here, because with a credit card, you can only put in the chargeable expenses. So let's see what your chargeable expenses are every month. Let's see what you've got. About $1,560 can be put in here for chargeable expenses. Okay. Chargeable meaning food, gas, electric, anything you can charge on a credit card, you can put in here. So the $1,560 that I'm showing here is your chargeable expenses, and this is the income for those chargeable expenses. So with your new expenses coming out of your income, your cash flow is $2,320. Okay, so that's your new cash flow. Plus your chargeable expenses can go in here because you're already paying these. They're already coming out of your checking account. You're just going to have them coming out of this credit card now. $3,880. So this would be your total deposit into this credit card income. Okay. Meaning that your balance would be $9,010 by the time you did this. Now, in this day and time, you don't necessarily want to just throw this much money onto a credit card. They are liable to cut your limits. So I would make a suggestion that maybe you would make multiple payments throughout the month. So whatever week you get paid, maybe do 2 or 3 payments in, so that your total amount going in is the $3,880 within the month, but you're not just chunking a big, large amount on there. In the last example, I showed you that you could put your total income in. That's because that's a new PLOC. But with a credit card that you've had and you're running a balance on, just be safe with that until you can make sure that they're not going to be cutting your limits, because you don't
So you
want to lose your
if
cash
I
flow.
dump a bunch of money in there, they'll cut my limit?
They have been known to,
Wow.
yes.
Okay.
Recently, for sure, yes.
Okay.
When the economy gets tight like it is,
Yep.
they start cutting limits, especially for people that's been running their balances up to the limit, or if you've been late on payments, stuff like that. Yes, yes, they will.
All right.
Okay.
Never been late, but and I try not to run it all the way up, especially those two cards because they're very large balances.
Right. Okay. So your expenses then, which were the total of $1,560 out of the credit card, so the expenses are going to come back out throughout the month. You have $1,560 in chargeables. You would be back up to $10,570. Now you are running a high interest of 28% on this account, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so 28% has to be figured. Again, they're going to do the average, okay? The average daily balance. I'm going to go ahead and take it off of the high, 12,890. So that's about $301 in interest. 10,871. Month 2, you're going to do it again. So we have this total 3,880. That is income for month 2. So 69.91 would be your approximate balance. Then you're going to have your expenses. You're at 85.51. So 247 approximately is your interest. You're going to do it again at 38.80 for income number 3. Now see, when you're using a credit card compared to a line of credit, you go a little bit slower because in that PLOC you can put all of your income in.
Right.
In these credit cards, you can only put in your cash flow and your chargeable expenses.
Right. Yeah, like the car payment I can't pay with this, and my rent I can't pay with this, but
exactly. 49.18.
Wow, look how far.
Yeah, you're coming down.
Wow.
You're in month 3. We're going to do it again. 15.60 for expenses, and then let's add some interest. 206 in interest. So 66.84. We're going to do it again. 38.80 goes in. This is month 4. 804. So in month 5, you'll have this account paid off again. You'll be using just your credit card for your chargeable expenses. Okay. So in less than 5 months, you've paid off $12,890.
Wow.
You would then just move everything to your next card.
Right.
So all of your cash flow would then go into the next card, which means that you're going to gain that monthly payment as cash flow as well. So it's going to work down even faster.
Right. Now, once they're all paid off, do you suggest I start closing them or no? Because I know okay, just leave them. Okay.
You never want to close down a line of credit because it hurts your credit score.
Okay.
The credit bureaus use a history. The history proves that how you've been doing on making your payments.
Gotcha. Yeah. So once all this is said and done within the next 11 months or 12 months, if I can get it down by then, which I'm sure I can, what do you suggest as far as now putting my money somewhere else, right? Because now I'm going to have a lot of cash flow, no credit card debt, and I'll have a lot of cash flow.
Right. So I use the infinite banking policies.
Okay. I've videos.
Yeah. So if you get a PLOC, for example, and it's the 15,000, you could make a $10,000 chunk into even your infinite policies and work it down like we showed with the PLOC earlier.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're funding that while you're able to pull it out and use it again in a loan form if you needed to.
Now, would you suggest doing that if I couldn't get a PLOC, or if we decided not to do a PLOC, or I couldn't get a line of credit? Would you suggest doing that on a credit card too and paying that credit card down?
You are in a position to get 0% credit cards if you wanted to do it that way.
Okay.
You could make, let's say you got a $15,000 credit card at a 0%. You could certainly do a $10,000 chunk or $12,000. They're going to charge you to use the 0% credit card. So the transfer fee is usually 3 to 5%.
Okay.
You could get a convenience check and write it out to yourself, and then
Right.
make the deposit into whatever fund you're going to use for investing or the infinite policies.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
All
You've
right.
been so helpful.
Well, I hope so. So, do you have any other questions?
I do not. It's been very eye opening.